The Israeli version was that the Egyptian began the problem. The Egyptians say it's the Israelis who began the problem, so I don't know who's right. What we do know is there's an Egyptian soldier dead, and that Egypt is very nervous about Israel's presence right there. And meanwhile, of course, there was that terrible thing last night in which Israel went after two Islamist militants, got them, but beyond that, set fire in its operation to a bunch of tents where poor people were had been sheltering, and 45 people are dead. So it was a very tough day.
This is something that Benjamin Netanyahu has described as a tragic mistake, and it's drawn condemnation from outside of Israel as well. How significant is this?
I think that's a good question. Historically, when Israel has carried out operations in southern Lebanon or in Gaza, it usually came to an end when there was a terrible mistake like this, in which a bunch of civilians were killed inadvertently. This war, of course, has been of a very different nature. Israel has declared it to be an existential struggle that it can't stop until there's complete defeat of Hamas. But there is so much pressure on Israel, including internally now, the notion that really whether or not they quote unquote finish in Rafah will not end the war, will not end Hamas anyway. It's not out of the question that it'll be a significant day. I will say that Netanyahu, in addition to calling it an error, tragic error, did say that that's not going to stop him from finishing the war the way he wants it. So it's hard to know.
The images circulating on social media of the fire in that tent city, truly horrifying for many
Horrifying.
of the reaction we've also heard from world leaders. The White House also talking about the difference in it. I mean, how are those pictures being discussed in Israel?
To be honest, the pictures don't really get much circulation in Israel. Israel tends to be focused on its own soldiers and its own needs, and and it continues to relive October 7th. There's not a lot of footage of what happened in Gaza that makes it into Israel until Israeli television screens. That said, there is a growing understanding because everyone had been saying, "Don't go into Rafah, don't go into Rafah. If you do, this kind of thing will happen." And they go, "No, we can do this," and then it happened. So there are now voices from the center in Israel saying, "Listen, it's time to end this." But I don't know if they're going to be if they're going to win that debate.
On the diplomatic front, Ireland, Spain, and Norway are set to formally recognise Palestinian statehood today. The
Yes.
EU foreign ministers, when they were meeting yesterday, discussed the possibility of sanctions on Israel if it doesn't comply with an order from the International Court of Justice to halt operations in Rafah. This is a moment in a shift in European position. How important is it?
Well, I think it is important, but maybe the way the Israelis are figuring it is that it'll take another week or 10 days for all of these decisions to come to fruition, at which point they will perhaps be able to have finished their operation in Rafah. So there remains the possibility of a negotiation, indirect negotiation with Hamas for an exchange of hostages for prisoners. So it is a moment where a lot of balls are up in the air. And I do think all of the pressure will have an effect. In addition, by the way, there's a fair amount of intelligence that's been leaked that says that the leaders are probably no longer in Rafah. So the whole thing is beginning to look like does it really have to move forward, even on Israeli terms? And it is under discussion. But, this government believes firmly that if it is showing weakness, it will ultimately suffer with Hezbollah and other Iranian militias. And so it's going to remain firm and rough. That's their attitude.